meeting of the Marshall County Fiscal Court to order. This morning, April 7th, 2015, we welcome everybody to our newly renovated fiscal courtroom that is still a little in the process, so excuse any shortfalls we have at this time. We're still working on it. It's a work in progress. We have a new sound system we're going to be trying to get used to. I hope everybody's had a good morning, and we'll try to keep the meeting as short as we can and still take care of everything. We have a couple of guests this morning. The first guest we have is Scott Phillips. Scott, if you'll come up to the podium.
Good morning. I'm here this morning to petition the court to, we're developing some property in Draftonville behind Hardee's and CFSB. It's on the Terre Court Road. And we are here, or I am here this morning to represent our business and ask the court to take this roadway avenue into the road system. We're trying to get it developed now, get it paved and finished off, and looking for any help or any assistance that we can get.
Anita, are you and Jason familiar with the area he's talking about?
Yes, Russell and I and Scott and I and Anita have been talking this morning. It's he's got a petition that he'll have to fill out. There's some information that he needs to provide us. It's going to go in as a petition for an existing road. It's been there since Russell said it's been there 35 years. So it would be an existing road. It would be an existing road, and so we need the deeds, the signatures, and what else did you tell me we needed, Anita?
I think Scott already has some of that.
I have some of the signatures. I do not have deeds. I wasn't aware that I needed them this morning, but I'll get them for you as soon as possible.
The cost of construction with a written.
Also need an estimate on cost of construction with a written proposal.
Okay.
And
All
Russell,
of that should be attached to your petition, what the rules are for an existing road.
Okay.
And if you meet all of that criteria, then they will look to set up a public hearing.
Okay. So once I have that information, come back here, is that correct? And then present it to you? Is that how I do this? Is that the process I'm looking for?
right.
Yes. Okay. And along with the deeds, signatures, and the proposed cost, copies of plats, that kind of thing as well?
Right.
The plat needs to be highlighted with how many feet you want taken in.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else you need from me in order to get this, or anything else we need to do at this time to get the process going?
How does he get the estimate?
We can do an estimate.
Okay, that's what I thought. You could provide him with that information.
So you need to check with Russell to get the estimate on that. Then he comes back and brings all this, and we set a public hearing up on it. Is that correct?
Well, wouldn't we do the road bureaus first before we do the hearing?
Okay.
Okay, so I work with Russell. Is that correct? Is that the best way to do it? And we'll get the information we need and come back at the next meeting we can. Is that correct?
At the next meeting, when you have it together, what they've asked you to have, bring that back, and we'll get it
Okay.
started.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Scott.
Thanks.
We have the Kaleo group with us this morning. John, if you'd like to come up. John has brought us some proposals on the new IT and the phone system.
I brought 7 of these this morning.
Our commissioners, one for the court file, one for me, the treasurer, and the attorney. Thank you.
You want to look at the, we can look at the phone system first or the IT proposal. I want to start with the phone system. It's probably the easier of the two. That's the quote on the right in your packet. I provided this for informational purposes. The overall quote for the phone system definitely exceeds the requirements for putting it out to bid in Kentucky. What we typically recommend for an asterisk phone system like this is to separate out the installation from the hardware. Since the system itself is free, you're just paying for hardware, it's easy enough to just bid out the hardware, which is the real requirement for putting out to bid. Andy can probably has a number of sources already for that kind of equipment. My guess is you probably already have an account with Dell, and that's typically for a Dell server is the easiest way to get one, or the cheapest way to get one is to have a direct account. And then if you look through that quote, I've got it separated. The server hardware is in the first section. The phones are in the second section. The phones are Polycom VVX 310s. These are, in talking with Andy, based upon a variety of needs for the county, those were the phones that seemed to best fit your needs, including both having not only the ability to talk to the system, but also some future proofing. There's what's called a gigabit switch built into the phone so that over time, as applications advance, that switch is going to become important. And then the last section is the installation. And a couple of important points on that. What we've worked out is that we would actually do the configuration, the setup, the training on the system, but Andy and his team would actually do the deployment of the phones. That'll save you some money on that. Any questions about the?
I guess we can make some more copies. I would prefer that the department heads that are going to be using the phones would be satisfied with the system, even more so than myself. I'm not going to be.
Sure, I don't think that's a problem. We can make them, or if you can send us a few more like this how many are we looking at, do you think? The
I don't
PDA's
know. I
office,
just
the
like
court
the
clerk?
people that are going to be using the department heads to have the same information that we have, to make sure that this is what they need.
I can scan this in and email it to the department heads,
I can get you a copy
so
of
that they can
Yeah.
Google the
Yeah.
the phone type.
What I would recommend, because this is a big decision, obviously a phone system is something you invest in for years and years to come, and you definitely want something that is going to meet all of your needs, is to have at least some of the department heads come down to Paducah and take a look at the phone system, at those kind of phones, and get a feel for what that's going to be like.
We're in Paducah?
We're downtown Paducah. If you're familiar with Chip Wynn's old place on Broadway, that's where we are. And we can show you that. McCracken County has this phone system. They have a little different phone. They don't have this same phone. This is a newer phone than when they bought, but it's very similar, and we can certainly go over there with any of the officials that want to do that and take a look at how they're using it there.
Are there any more questions on that
Yes.
part?
Jason, how do we move forward with this being over 20,000?
If it's over 20, it'd have to be bid out.
Right.
And for the hardware, we'd have to be,
One thing that I should probably explain is that an asterisk phone system, the phone system itself, the software that runs it, is open source software. It's free. It's commercially sponsored by a company called Digium out of Alabama. It's been around for about 17, 18 years now, and it's widely used, but that doesn't actually cost any money. You can deploy it completely free. The thing that you pay for is the hardware that it runs on, which is a standard Windows server. It runs on Linux, but a standard server that you would buy for your office, that kind of thing, as well as what are called IP phones. We recommend Polycom phones. They're sort of a middle ground between cost and quality, so they're not low-end cost. They're not the most expensive phones that are out there, but they're very, very good quality phones. And so you get kind of a middle ground on that. And that's it. So there's, and then installation, the configuration and installation of the system. So it's not quite like buying a traditional phone system where you are paying for the software and typically the equipment that it runs on is proprietary and that sort of thing. And you buy it as a complete system. You don't have to do that with an asterisk system. You can kind of piece it together.
And will y'all be doing the installation on whatever hardware we get? Is that,
That's what we'd like to do, yeah. And we can certainly sell you the hardware, but, you know, it obviously does need to go out to
We
bid.
obviously are going to have to bid it, I guess, by the, now, we usually open our bids up in our local papers. How are we going to get this out to the areas we need to get it to get bids on this type of hardware? Because this is not just something you're going to find right here in Marshall County, I'm assuming.
No, but there are companies in the area that can sell that equipment.
And sell it,
Yeah.
okay. All right,
You wouldn't be limited to just doing it in the local papers. I mean, you could do it in,
okay.
you know, however you wanted to. Paducah Sun, New York Times, you can advertise it wherever you want to.
Well, we won't go to the New York Times, but Paducah Sun might be a good idea. Okay. All right. Have you got any more questions about the phone system? Now, this phone system is going to be, we're talking about the judicial building, right? That's going to be taking all these offices in. Okay.
On the first page of the quote that we have there, there's actually 2 servers. We put 1 server here and 1 server at the judicial building, and they would actually back each other up. They would, you know, be able, one would be able to take over for the other and that sort of thing. We have also, once Andy comes back from vacation, I have numbers back to look at in terms of service. I took a look at your phone bills. You know, we had quite a long list of, you know, it's a big, thick packet.
Yes.
And it looks to me, I'm guesstimating a little bit at this, but I think it's fairly accurate that you should be able to save between $4,000 and $5,000 a month. Right now, you're paying for the service that can be replaced, you're paying about $5,000 a month. To replace it is going to cost about $1,000 a month, and I'm talking about phone service. So it's a big savings.
And it seems to be the top priority of our department heads also, what I understand. So that's-
Okay, I guess if we're through with that, then we'll go into the IT part.
In the proposal, in basically going through with Andy what it was that he needed in order to be more effective, be able to handle more of the things that they need to handle in a timely manner, important things that maybe aren't, you know, on fire but need to be handled that he can't seem to get to, that sort of thing. These were the services that we came up with that would best help him. So the first one is what we call a triage help desk. This is basically where anyone who needs help is calling in to this particular help desk, or they can email into that help desk, and then a triage technician will take the information, turn it into a ticket, basically document everything that needs to be documented, and then they'll route that ticket or that call to the appropriate resource, which, you know, could be Andy or could be one of the other folks in the IT department. And that way it gives you a couple of different benefits. One, it allows you to have users that are turning in information, that are reaching out for help, but not necessarily have to interrupt the IT administrator in the middle of doing something else, which obviously can be problematic. If, you know, you've got 2 or 3, 4 calls coming in at the same time and they're being pulled in every different direction, it's hard for them to complete anything. So what that does is it allows that to be a buffer and allows the IT people to work on the things that they need to work in the order that they need to work them in. And then the other thing that it does is it allows all the information to be captured. What happens frequently in the current kind of environment is that somebody will grab Andy in the hallway or call in or something like that, and they'll fix a problem and nothing ever gets recorded about it. There's, you know, no information about what happened, no information about what time it was completed, what the problem was, whose problem it was, all that kind of stuff. So there's no record of any of that. There's no way to tell over time what areas of the county's IT are problematic in any kind of objective way, that sort of thing. So the triage help desk helps with all of that. And if you look at the last page, basically what I've done is I've priced all of the services in a per system model. So each line item of the service, you basically take the number of systems, which is approximately 130 in the county, and it's priced per system. So I don't have a copy, and I'm doing this. second piece is the rented tool set. This is, in the audit that we did, one of the things that we identified was that they don't have any tools today to actually manage the environment. It's what we call sneaker net, where they run around doing things all day long. And there's a couple of problems with that. One, it's a big time waster. There's no leverage whatsoever. There's no ability to see things that a system can see easily. So, for example, if Andy needs to upgrade a PC for RAM purposes, for memory, what he has to do today is he has to get on that system. He has to look to see how much RAM it is, but then he's got to figure out, can he just upgrade and add some more RAM? Does he need to replace the RAM? That sort of thing. A tool set like this will actually give him that information right at his desk. In fact, he can take, if he knows he's got a whole set of computers that he needs to upgrade, he can actually run a report that will tell him, this is what you need to get on each of these systems. That sort of thing. So it allows him to manage the environment better. It gives him a lot more information. The other thing that the tool set does is it monitors and manages the environment in an automated fashion. So one of the things that you do typically in keeping systems healthy and promoting uptime in the systems is you keep them clean. That means that making sure that the antivirus software is running, that it's good, that kind of stuff. Making sure that the disk is cleaned up of all kinds of files that are cluttering it. Over time, you probably all have experienced this. You buy a new computer, it runs really fast, and then a year or two later, it's running really slow, and you're wondering, how did that happen? That's how this happens. Over time, they get cluttered. And so what the system does is it's constantly decluttering them automatically. He doesn't have to deal with that. It also can be set up, and we have a whole host of different things that do this, but we can also customize it in this particular environment for different things that you're doing, to be able to watch for particular problems and fix them if we know how to fix it in an automated fashion. So a particular report, let's say, running out of the PVA office that we know causes a problem on the server, if certain conditions happen, we can actually monitor for those conditions and then remediate that without somebody having to actually do anything. It's all automated. What that does is it frees up lots of time. So there's three components to that tool set. There's a monitoring component to monitor everything from the server is overheating and it's going to have a serious problem to the backups didn't run successfully last night, that kind of thing. Anything and everything in terms of monitoring. Second piece is the management piece, which is the tool set that allows Andy and his team to do things from their desk that they normally have to go out and actually deal with on site, that sort of thing. The third piece is the ticketing system itself. That makes it possible to track everything that's happening, keeps an inventory of all the systems, all that sort of stuff. Andy and his team would have access to the administrative console of that system, be able to use it to its full extent, but it also provides a web portal for all of the users, so that any user can get in, they could submit a ticket through the portal, they can get in, they can look at their tickets in the portal, a department head can look at all of the tickets from their department, they can see what's been happening, what's the latest information on those tickets, they can then request an update through that portal to those tickets, all kinds of stuff that's available to them. The next piece on the list is what we call a IT escalation service. And this is basically a backup to Andy in terms of technical, dealing with technical problems. So anytime you have an environment where you have an IT guy or even just a couple of IT people in the IT department, they have a very good set of knowledge about the environment that they work in. So all of your applications, they're very knowledgeable. They're the most knowledgeable IT people on your applications. But from a general knowledge standpoint, it's very difficult for an IT administrator in that job to have a very broad scope of knowledge and skill and information. So what happens is working on a problem that is unique to your applications, then it's easy, they're the best person to work on it. But if it's more of a generalized, a network problem, a server problem, a database problem, just all kinds of different things, they may work for hours on something that one of our technicians has seen 100 times and knows exactly what to do. And we've got a customer in California that has experienced that weird problem before and we know exactly how to fix it, or we have a particular expert in a particular area that has advanced training, a lot of skill and experience in that particular area. So what that allows Andy to do is if he's come up against a wall and he just can't figure out, I don't know how to fix this, or I've been trying to work on it, don't know what's wrong, he can then escalate that ticket to our third level help desk and get some help from one of our advanced technicians who can then step in and help try and figure out what's wrong. And the last piece is the what we call the IT backup service. And this is for basically to allow Andy to go on vacation. So that, he's on vacation this week. If something happens this week, he's in Mexico, what do? You may not be able to get a hold of him, that sort of thing. Or if you can, then poor Andy. He told us a story from, I guess, a few years ago where he actually had to fly back from vacation in California to deal with a network problem and cut his vacation short, as well as sick time or travel. So if there's a conference that, let's say that, the sheriff's going to and there's going to be something to deal with applications for law enforcement, the changes in the state, and you want Andy to come with you to that meeting. Well, he's going to be in Lexington or Louisville, Bowling Green, wherever it is. He's not here able to handle things. He can then turn it on for that as well. So it gives some flexibility to that. But basically, what would happen is he would call into the help desk and he'd say, okay, on this date, I need you guys to take over. And then what would happen, the triage desk that's taking all those calls and all those tickets, instead of escalating to Andy, they would escalate to our second level help desk, and a technician would help that person. There's also one other item at the beginning of the list, which is the initial setup. To set up all of the tool set information takes a lot of time and effort on our part, and so we have a setup fee for that. Our normal contract is month to month, 30-day contract. We like to say that it puts the pressure on us to perform. Because you can fire us at any time, we have to perform every month. But if you want to sign a year contract, we will waive that initial setup fee. So there's no setup fee if you're on a year contract.
Do y'all have any questions?
What kind of securities do you have built into your system? Because with us, that's very sensitive information that we don't need to be gotten out.
The only information that would actually be on our systems is technical information about the equipment. So, for example, it's going to have an inventory of how much RAM does the system have, how much, what applications does it have, that sort of thing. It won't actually have any data. But, however, we actually specialize in government IT. We have contracts with state departments of corrections, sheriff's departments all over the country. So it's a very big concern of ours. We actually host an application for corrections in Paducah at the CSI data center and have a number of jails and prisons that run an application, have data on those servers. So we go through all kinds of processes for that. All of our technicians have to go through extensive criminal background checks. The Sheriff's Department in McCracken County actually has to, they basically tell us whether or not an employee can come to work for us, and they have to go through an FBI check. We have 2 states that require the state background check on all of our employees. So we do an extensive amount of work in general to offer that level of security. In terms of the technical security of the systems, basically we have multiple layers, physical layers of security. The systems are housed at CSI so that you actually have to go through multiple layers of security at CSI that they require for their own purposes. And then in terms of technical security, you have to have a password, login, all that kind of stuff to get into the system. Then it limits your access to only those things that are pertinent to that login. And then administrative security, where we have policies in place to, for example, we don't allow you to just come in from anywhere to those systems. You have to come in from a known network. So if somebody's trying to hack us from, Belarus, they can't get into the network at all. They're going to have to come in a different way, usually social engineering, which our guys all go through training on that and that sort of thing. Social engineering works very well in a user environment where you get somebody's password, by convincing them that you should have it, or loading their system with viruses or something like that. And it's much harder for that to happen in an IT, with IT administrators, because we're a lot more knowledgeable what, the tricks of the trade are. So there's a lot of security that goes into the system.
Thank you.
I don't know that I understood all that. Security for our servers here, that's our concern when this all started, really, is somebody hacking into our system. They're still going to be separate, they're going to be separated, they're just going to be our servers here, correct?
Yes, that's correct. We're not introducing any new systems into the environment
Right.
here.
And so, how does any of this help to be sure that we're not going to be hacked here? Or is that something that y'all will be monitoring, or?
Yeah, the monitoring system can monitor aspects of that, so like it'll monitor for virus attacks, things like that, and it'll alarm on those kinds of things. We've just begun a conversation with Andy about some more sophisticated systems for protecting the environment than you have today. Whether it's really necessary for the environment is questionable. You definitely have pretty good security today. We found one security flaw in the wireless system that Andy remedied the day that we found it. So the security's pretty good. The problems with security today have to do with you've got some systems that are old and need to be patched and that kind of thing, and a lot of that's already been done. It's not so much, the problems were more associated with the ability of Andy to keep up. And that was the real problem. The actual systems you have in place are certainly adequate for the environment in terms of security. There are things you could do beyond that. For example, you don't have an intrusion detection system today that would tell you that somebody was trying actively to hack into your environment. That's something that could be added to the network to be able to alarm on that you don't have today. It's not, most county governments don't have that kind of system.
Okay, well, at some point, occasionally we could get your input, I guess, and review this occasionally, so to be sure that we've got enough security at what we need.
Yeah, as
we
part
go
of the
forward.
escalation service is a quarterly audit with Andy to go over what we're seeing in the environment.
Okay, good.
I know that you didn't mention this morning about the audit that your company performed for Marshall County, and it might be very positive for the taxpayers to hear that our IT department got a very good rating as far as the audit was concerned. But one of the things that was brought up in the audit, and the fourth thing on that you mentioned, the backup coverage, one of the problems in that audit was the fact that, and you mentioned Andy being on vacation, having to fly back, but the worst case scenario, Andy flies back and the plane crashes and Andy doesn't come back, and Marshall County's, behind the eight ball. And is that the backup system, can that be long-term to solve some of those concerns?
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly, if there was a longer-term problem, because we would be integrated already into the IT department, let's say, for instance, Andy became disabled. He was in a car wreck and he's in a coma, or he quits one day.
Right.
He wins the lottery and he says, "See you guys, I'm out of here." And because we'd already be integrated, we could help during an interim period while we're actually helping you find a replacement.
No, that was one of your all concerns, that if something like that happened, the worst case scenario, a car accident, and he didn't come back, that, where would we be? And
Yeah,
he knows those things, and I think in my conversation with Andy, he realized that that was the case, that it was all up here, but, you know, if he didn't walk in the door that morning, then you know, we had some deficiencies.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest flaw right now, and I will, here in a minute, I do want to, you know, give a kudos to Andy and his team, and you know, in terms of the audit, because it was a good result.
I was very pleased to hear that.
You know, the biggest problem today really is the fact that everything is in Andy's head, and you don't have systems in place to be able to document and keep track of all of that, be able to look at trends over time and that sort of thing, make better decisions. That's really the big problem. In terms of the audit, for those of you who might not be aware, we performed an audit. We work with CAECO and have a long-term relationship with them in terms of doing that kind of thing, providing IT audits, IT security audits for local government. And we do that all over the country, and in government as well as in a couple of other industries. And it's more common for us when we're brought in to do an audit for it to be a bad situation. Because typically, if an audit has been requested, it's because things are really bad. And so that's normal for us to come in and find a disaster that, you're on the brink of losing everything. We've been at sheriff's departments where the sheriff didn't know that there was literally no backups whatsoever for the patrol system or the jail management system, and not only do they not have any backups, but the server's in a degraded state where it could die at any minute, and if it did, everything's gone. And so that's actually normal. In this particular case, what we found was that everything is actually very good. There certainly were a few things here and there that needed to be cleaned up, but they were things that you could see what was going on. You've got an IT guy that's overworked, and he's good, he's knowledgeable, he's actually got a good broad skill set, and works well in the environment, but there's too much and for working in that capacity, without tools, without any kind of systems, without backup. And so that's really, I believe that's the solution long term.
Will this proposal potentially alleviate the need for an additional IT employee on our end?
I believe so, yeah.
We talked about a combination of both.
Commissioner, I need you to put your microphone up a little closer when you're speaking. I'm afraid they're not getting it.
I told the pretty young lady I wouldn't touch it when she put it where I
Don't
wanted
be
she
mic
wanted it.
shy now,
I
just
promised her. So she
make
moved
sure
it.
she's
She
hearing
moved it
you.
where she wants it. I promised her
Okay.
I wouldn't touch it.
I'm afraid your soft voice is not being recorded. We want everyone to hear you.
Never been accused of having a soft voice.
Well, I think, we did call them in for this audit. We were very pleased with the results, except, of course, for our own shortfalls with equipment. We're looking for a web page. We're looking to get our web page set up. I think all of this presents a fairly more than adequate proposal for that, but I think probably everyone wants to look it over, think it over. We probably won't take any action today. We want to check out and go through the bid process on the hardware. Does anybody else have any questions on that you would, and you have left your card with them if they have any further questions, you can get a hold of him.
Packets have a card in it.
All of it's in here.
I would actually move that we begin the bid process for the hardware.
You want to make a motion to start the bid process?
So, for the hardware for the phone system and just see what we get.
All right, is there a second on that? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we'll start the bid process.
Can I ask another question? You said our current system with the new system that's been proposed will save between $4,000 and $5,000 a month. Is that accurate?
I think it's pretty close.
Okay, let me ask you this. When we turn over to page 5 on the proposal, the monthly totals for the triage, the backup and so forth, those 4 columns right there, is that going to make it about a wash? if our present system does not contain that, that looks like roughly there's probably $3,000 there.
Yeah, it was a little over 3,000.
So that's, that $4,000 to $5,000 savings, the time we add that in there, it's, I mean, it's still gonna be a savings, but.
It'd be a little bit at that point, but yeah.
But so basically, instead of having a $4,000 or $5,000 a month savings, if we put all the bells and whistles in there, which we should, because it's good, and I understand the need for that, but basically, we're saving $1,000 a month for, is that accurate?
It's as accurate as I can tell right now
Yeah.
without
Okay.
spending a lot more
Okay.
time.
Okay. That's
It
good.
looked to me like in the phone bills that you have a number of phone lines that would have to be left alone. They're probably alarm system lines and fax lines and things like that. And then there's the phone system lines and everything associated with that.
Right.
That's about a little over $5,000 a month, and that could go away and then be replaced by a new phone server and a new phone system, or phone service.
I just trying to get a clearer picture of the $4,000 or $5,000 savings per month sounds real good, and I just want to make sure that I was getting the picture that was being painted, because the time you add this other, but we're still saving $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
As far as we can tell by doing that.
It looked to me
Or
like
more accurate.
the phone system savings would probably pay for everything.
Right, right. That's the picture I wanted to get up here. Thank you.
Once we get into we have the hardware, we've gone through the bid process, do you have any kind of a time estimate on when we will have our system set up and running? Is there any way to know?
My project manager would be very upset with me if I committed to something, but
Okay. I understand.
usually it's about 4 weeks.
Okay, well, just a ballpark figure.
I mean, all department heads, I do too.
Actually, it's a little bit of a misnomer. The system internally will be voice over IP, but not externally. So what I've gotten a quote from CSI. You certainly want multiple quotes, but I just wanted a ballpark figure. So the quote that I got from CSI was for a traditional line service, digital service into the building, what's called a PRI. And so it would be normally published. From the outside world, you would not be able to tell any difference at all. Yeah, they would.
Does anyone have any more questions?
Thank you.
Well, at this point, then, we'll let you go, and I'm sure if they have any more questions, they've got your card. We'll start the bid process on the hardware.
Our spec on that,
Andy? Andy
let
can do
Andy
that, right?
develop, work with them to develop the spec that we want. I know they've got a phone here that they think's the best. If that's correct, then I don't want to be changing it, so Andy and these can set up a good spec for someone to bid for this, for the hardware. Good, that's fine.
We'll try to
Good,
get on
very
that, yeah, as soon as Andy gets back.
good. All right, that'd be good.
Thank you, John.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
We have someone here with us today, it's not on our guest list. Scotty Henson was going to be with us the last time and decided to wait until this week when he could be here. He would like to talk to us about a road being brought back into the county system. You okay? All right.
First of all, I want to thank the court for allowing me to come and make this statement. Several years ago, I think it was 1971, according to this copy of the deed that I have, my uncle, Robert Turner, had a tract of land that a Mr. Charles White wanted to buy from him. And Robert sold him, the deed is in deed book 146 and on page 117. And I have before me a copy of that deed. And there is one particular item, the third page in this deed, the copy of it. No, I haven't found it yet. Just bear with me a minute, I'll find it. The grantor herein, Robert Turner and wife Rowetta Turner, reserved the right to use for purposes of egress and ingress a 30-foot strip of land for a roadway. Said roadway runs north and south from the Benton-Aurora Highway, which is 408 Highway, to the land of said Robert Turner and others. So the Whites, a few years back, decided that that was still their land. And at that time, the county was maintaining this road for us. When Gordon Hargrove was the magistrate, he saw to it that the road was maintained, first with chip and seal and then blacktop, because the school bus had to come up there and get our little 6-year-old daughter. Either that or we'd have to take her to the highway because we wouldn't let her go down there by herself. And so the road was maintained as a county road, and when the snow came like we've recently had, they came and they graded our road for us so we could go in and out. Today, it's imperative that I get in and out because I'm on dialysis. As soon as I leave here, I have to go to Paducah. I go every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday because my kidneys no longer work, and dialysis, as long as I go to that, hopefully I'll stay alive. But if I didn't go there, I would die. And so it's important that that road is maintained. Now, the rescue squad did a wonderful job taking me to dialysis through that snow. There was only one day when they couldn't do it. But anyway, my proposal is to have that road back as a county road, as it was for a long time until the Whites decided it was their road. They sued the county, they sued me, they sued my brother who lives out by South Marshall for coming up that road to visit my mother who lived in the house that Robert and Rowetta Turner used to live in. She bought that after my dad died. And so everybody that was connected with the Whites got sued one way or the other. And Steve White, to further the aggravation towards me, came as close to me as he could get on the worst possible lot on that land and built a house which never was really finished. And then he died of cancer, and the house is now a rental house. And I've been trying to get a hold of a member of the White family. So far, I haven't been successful in doing that. But this deed proves that that 30-foot right-of-way belongs to me now, since I bought the land from Robert Turner. And the Whites decided it was theirs, and they changed the name of it, took it away from the county, sued the county, took it away from the county, and named it Louise White, apostrophe S, showing ownership, Road. Well, I asked your husband, when he was living, if this road name could be changed back. Now, it was originally called Scotty Henson Lane. I'm not necessarily asking for that name back. I would rather the road be called Turner Road, because after my Uncle Robert Turner, who reopened it, this was a road, understand, over 100 years ago. And it hadn't been used in about 50 years until my Uncle Robert reopened it. And then the Whites took it away from us and decided it was their road. And my plea is to you, all of you, is to get this road back under the county's auspices and maintenance, because right now there are holes breaking in the pavement, which there's nobody there to fix it anymore. And so I just wanted you to know my situation that I'm in, and I really need it to be maintained by the county, if at all possible. And if you'd like me to leave this copy of this deed with you, I can do that.
Do y'all need that? I think first we need to determine, from what I understood, it was taken to court and it was found by a jury that this was a private road, correct?
Right, I mean, I think everybody here probably is sympathetic with you. It was a very frustrating situation. I know it was for you, and it was for us as well. I know it was more so for you than it was us probably, but right now we have a circuit court judgment that says that it's a private road. And I'd have to go back and do some research to find the answer for sure, but my gut reaction and answer would be that unless everyone with an ownership interest in that area signed off on it, I don't think we could take it back over as a county road. But if we did get 100% of the owners to sign off on it, then we might be able to do that, but.
But now if we do that, we still got to go through the same process we would go through on any other road that's being taken in under county maintenance, which is bringing it up to regulations, viewing inspection, the entire process from the beginning, right?
Well, yeah, this would be an existing road.
Can you check on that would you like to return to our next meeting and have him check on that for you?
Yes.
Okay.
When will that be, ma'am?
Our next meeting will be April 21st. Can you get that checked by then, or do we
Yeah,
need to
do you
look
know
at-
who owns Steve's interest now?
I understand he has a son in Paducah, but I haven't been able to locate him. Brent Wyatt is his name.
Brent?
W-Y-A-T-T.
Okay.
Brent Wyatt. And I was told that he was a CPA down there, but I haven't had any success in finding where he is.
Is he the only one that owns that now? Do you know?
I think so. I'm not positive about that. I have right here, if you don't care, I'm gonna take this with you.
Okay.
If you read on that second and third page at the bottom, it tells where Robert Turner, my uncle who sold him the land, it stipulated that he maintained a 30-foot right-of-way. So I don't know how it could be changed to a private road in any other ownership.
Well, I think we were all surprised at what the jury said in the lawsuit, but nevertheless, they did say what they said, and we got to deal with it.
Scotty, that Paul that lives across the road with the big pond there by his house,
Yeah.
he sends a monthly check to that Steve in Paducah for his
He
rent.
told me he sent it to an agency here in Benton.
Okay, he used
He
to,
doesn't go, I went to him and asked him if he had the phone number, and he said, I don't know him. He said, I go through an agency in Benton, which I was not aware existed, and he had no idea how to get in touch with the Whites. So I've made every effort I can to try to find that phone number for that man, and try to get his signature on that deed that Melody sent me for that purpose. Because we really need to have the road where we can go in and out when we need, especially with me having to go to dialysis 3 days every week for the rest of my life. And my plea to you as a judge and as the court best to come back the next meeting. What did you say the date was?
The 21st of April.
April 21st. Okay, I'll try to make sure I can be here for that. And I want to thank all of you for letting me make this little passionate plea. Okay?
Thank you, Scotty, and take care of yourself now. Is there anything he could do to, like, put in the paper looking for this gentleman in Paducah? I mean, I don't know how to advise him to find someone that,
We should be able to find him. I think
Okay.
I can probably find him.
okay, that would be a big help. Okay, now we're going to go into correspondence. Commissioners, I have a letter from the Kentucky Department for Libraries and Archives from Wayne Ongst, the State Librarian and Commissioner. And it says, "Dear Judge Miller, since the term of Carla Marshall of the Marshall County Public Library Board of Trustees will expire on April 30th, 2015, we hereby submit the following names for your consideration and fill in the vacancy," quotations here, or parentheses, "new term to expire April 30th, 2019. And he's submitted two names, Carolyn Darnell, 503 Paul Anderson Road, Benton, Kentucky, and Jenny Johnston, 3404 Mayfield Highway, Benton, Kentucky. As required by KRS 173, this appointment is to be made by you with the approval of the fiscal court. Please send copies of your order and the resultant fiscal court action to my office for our official files. These two names, I don't know either one of them.
I know Carla very well.
Okay. I think these were submitted by the Christy Tucker, the library director here in the Benton Marshall County Library. I would entertain a motion for one of these names to be nominated. Personally, it says it's up to me. I don't think know either one of them, know of them.
I mean, I could certainly move to nominate Carla Darnell. I know her very well. She's
All
in
right,
the
then we'll have.
Circuit Court Clerk's office.
Okay, and this will be replacing Carla Marshall to serve until 2019, April 30th, 2019. So there's been a motion to nominate Caroline.
Obviously, she's willing to serve. Has she been asked if she's willing to serve? Do you know that
Yes,
she's been
they
asked?
vet
Both of
them, I
are
think,
willing to
before
serve
they
if
submit their
asked.
names.
Okay.
So is there a second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We have another letter in correspondence from Jason Lubiker, and he is fire chief at the Palmer-Brownsburg Fire Districts Board. The firefighter trustee, Jeff Robinson, who has served on the Palmer-Brownsburg Fire Districts Board of Trustees as an elected firefighter representative, submitted his resignation to the Board of Trustees due to his moving out of the county. Based upon firefighter Robinson's resignation being submitted, the firefighters have polled and recommended firefighter Danny Coursey of 68 Coursey Lane, Benton, Kentucky, be presented as their recommendation to be appointed to fill Robinson's term. Firefighter Robinson's term is slated to expire in June 2015. At that time, they will present another nominee, or him, I guess they could even present at that time. So I would entertain a motion that we make this replacement.
I'll make that motion.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, on to old business. We have the minutes of the March 17, 2015 meeting. Have you read those? And would there be a motion to vote to approve those?
Motion to approve the minutes is written.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'm going to read you a letter from the Office of the Governor, Department for Local Government. This is in regard to the Marshall County Health Department Project Community Development Block Grant number 08-019. Dear Judge Miller, the Department for Local Government has received and reviewed the program completion report. An approved copy is enclosed for your files. Our records indicate all required steps relevant to closeout of the project have now been completed. Therefore, this project is fully closed. Please maintain all project records for a period of 5 years from the date of closeout. Thank you for your assistance in bringing this project to a close. If you have any questions regarding the above, please contact Travis Weber. And this is signed Lynn Travis Littrell, Executive Director, Office of Federal Grants. That is, puts that to a close. On March 18th, I signed a proclamation for Arbor Day by request. That was the refuge director for the area brought this in, and I will read that. Whereas the Commonwealth is blessed with diverse forests that extend from the hardwood forest of the east to the cypress swamps of the west, and whereas trees are a sustainable resource providing significant environmental and economic benefits to Kentuckians, and whereas Kentucky's forest products are a $12.8 billion green industry employing over 59,000 people, and whereas trees enhance our air quality, purify our water resources, protect our soil, supply a source of renewable energy, and provide valuable wildlife habitat, and whereas forests improve our health by offering a place of recreation and solace, and whereas trees and healthy forests enhance the quality of life for all Kentuckians, now therefore I, Cheryl Miller, Marshall County Judge Executive, hereby proclaim March 18, 2015 as Arbor Day in Marshall County. I urge all citizens participate in the observance of this day by planting at least one tree. Our reward and that of future generations will be a more beautiful Kentucky whose health and well-being are sustained by this great natural resource, our forest. At this time, we need to schedule the second reading of the building code ordinance for April the 21st, our next meeting. That will get our second reading in, hopefully get us where we're supposed to be at this point.
So move, Judge.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Is this to do with the expanded jurisdiction?
Yes. It's the ordinance that, help me out a little bit, Melanie. I think we had a first reading, then the state changed something, and we had to have another first reading that was done when?
That date with me,
Okay.
I'm not sure.
It was done, but we have not ever had the second reading, and we have
First
to
date was
announce.
December 30th.
I'm not
when-
sure.
When the previous court passed
Yeah.
that, or had a first reading.
Okay, so now we're scheduling the second reading. We had to do it in a timely manner that it's out there for people to know about. And then we can read it and have the approval at the April 21st meeting.
And all the other entities have had a first and second reading?
Is that necessary?
Okay, so the other entities do not have to have a first and second reading?
Well, since it's an interlocal agreement, aren't we reading
They're
it for
two
them?
different things. The interlocal agreement is one document, and the ordinance is a separate document. I think Wendy's going to
Yeah,
explain
okay,
it.
let Wendy.
What you guys are referring to with all the cities in the county is interlocal agreement. This is the ordinance that Jeff and Jason did in the summer. I believe that we had a first reading of it in July, again in August or September, the state changed some wording, and then there was never a second reading. Jeff thought that there was a second reading, and we went back and we couldn't find an actual second reading. So it was a document that basically, I don't have a copy of it with me. Mel, do you have a copy of it? I know that Mel has a copy of it downstairs. But it basically says we have a building program.
Right, and this just says that we have a county program.
Right,
County has a
right.
program to inspect single and two-family dwellings. The interlocal agreement then is another document that the cities will have to.
What the ordinance basically
Pass.
says is that they're going to adopt the building code that is put out by the state. The county is going to adopt that.
Didn't they tell us way back when that it was going to be mandated on July the 1st of 2014?
And then they sent out some changes in the wording of what they recommended to be put in the document itself. So,
So
We did have the first reading about
and
this.
then they changed
Obviously.
it. Yeah.
Okay. And all the other counties in the state of Kentucky are encountering the same problem?
Now, that's not exactly true. What happens with this is the state managed to get this in a way that, where all the counties aren't affected at the same time. Everyone's expanded jurisdiction, people that have it, only comes up at certain times. When you achieve expanded jurisdiction, then in 5 years from that date, you have to reapply. And all the counties do it at different times. So there wasn't a significant outcry. It was coming up county by county. This will
Right.
continue in other counties as time goes on.
Kind of like they cut the puppy dog's tail off a little bit at a time instead of one big.
I just
All across
assume
the
that the
state.
state's not prepared. That makes their task a little less strenuous, but I assume that the state's not prepared to inspect residential structures for 120 counties.
They're not going to anyway.
I understand
Their
that. but
statute
that-
says that they won't be inspected.
Well, yeah, but they will take care of the paperwork. If we don't do it here, then that task will fall upon them.
Only for
too.
commercial.
Right, and residential.
Oh.
Who does residential?
They won't do any. State won't do it. It says in the statute that they won't do it.
Is that right,
You
Jason?
have to build by the code, but the state won't inspect.
Okay, so if, as is the case now, we do not have that in place and have not had that in place since July the 1st of 2014. So any residential new construction in Marshall County, any additions over 125 square foot are illegal?
They've all had to build according to the code. That's mandated for everyone. There just wasn't an inspection program in place to look.
Which makes it null and void.
Well,
Is
they're
that not
supposed to
correct?
build
I
by it.
mean, why would they mandate it to the state of
They've
Kentucky mandate
they've
that?
mandated that. The code has been mandated for years before that, many, many years before that.
But
It's
not for residential.
Yes, for everyone.
You
Everything.
haven't had to have it
Absolutely.
inspected.
You haven't had to have it inspected
Right.
because the state didn't want to
But
inspect
you do
it.
now, as of July the 1st of 2014, you have to have, that is
If you
the
have,
law.
if you have expanded jurisdiction only. The counties that do
Right.
not want to have expanded
Right.
jurisdiction still do not have to have a program.
Correct, but we did, and we did have expanded jurisdiction until it got taken away. That
Yes.
we're in the process of.
Getting it back.
Getting it back again.
That's what this process is.
That has to be built by code, whether the state inspects it or
Absolutely.
not.
It always has been, since they had a code. But anyway, the way they went about it, it wasn't very good, as far as I'm concerned.
So we've scheduled this, correct? All right. And the next thing I had on there, Rita Dotson and Randy Duke, the gentleman we've hired to do the inspections, came and met with me the other day. Wendy, I may need you back. They're ready to set the board in place, and we need to get a board set in place. The way I understand it, each city, Benton, Hardin, and Calvert City, have an appointment. The fiscal court has an appointment, and the county judge has an appointment. At this point, I know there are a few names available for appointment, but don't think we have one for Calvert City. Is that correct? Do we have the 4 names on the others?
I know that Mayor Scott and Dotson have both made their appointments. I spoke with Mayor Jones this morning prior to court. He has a couple names, and they have a council meeting on Monday. So he was hoping, there was some miscommunication about how that process worked. So we spoke this morning about clearing that up. So he's going to try to make his appointment by Monday.
So they need to do this in their individual council meetings and then give us those names for us to officially appoint?
Right, well, it doesn't have to be done because it's a mayor, the mayor can do that with or without the council is the way the interlocal agreement is written.
Okay.
I think that requires council approval, pretty sure.
So anyways, I know that Hardin and Benton have done theirs, and Calvert plans to do theirs Monday night. Mayor Jones thought there was going to be some changes to the interlocal agreement before he did that, and that's not the case. So there was just some, but everything is done expanded jurisdiction-wise. We're just waiting on the state, and they need a copy of that ordinance that we're going to reread on the 21st. So that's all we're waiting on is the fiscal court's appointees,
Okay.
judge executives.
So I think then by April the 21st, our next meeting, we can probably get our board set. Now, I have talked to someone, and they have told me they would take my placement on the board. And I feel very comfortable with him. He's been on state boards, he's been on many boards, and knows a lot of the process. Since this is a board that's being formed, it's brand new, I think it's very, very needful that we have someone that's very experienced in that area also.
Right, we need the board in place because we've got a lot of people starting to build residentially, and we need to find out, that board actually sets the budget, so
Okay.
We can't really go forward.
And we need to
until
go in
board
that
is
and figure
here.
out everything we're going to have. It's so new. But I have chosen mine, and I need you all to get together, I guess, and get your names together on who you might.
Okay, there's, besides your selection, we have,
You have one.
we'll confer for one selection. Okay.
And after we appoint the board, then I'm understanding that Jason and Jeff will get together and set up the rules and guidelines and policy, bylaws.
We have to have an organizational meeting to set everything up.
Okay. Who all will that include on the organizational meeting? The board members, the entities?
Board members and Jeff.
Jeff? Okay,
Jeff is the attorney for the board.
okay. So at this time, as I said, y'all get together, and I guess at the April 21st meeting, we would like to get this all taken in and set up, and hopefully we can start getting this on the road. These people are wanting to start building, and the weather's getting nice, hopefully stays nice. All right, thank you, Wendy. Is there any more old business anyone has to discuss? All right, we'll go into new business. There's another proclamation. I'd like to ask that Jason read this for us.
Marshall County Fiscal Court Proclamation, Confederate History and Heritage Month. Whereas the United States of America is a country made up of people united by a common history of individual heritage and diverse cultures, and whereas the Commonwealth of Kentucky has long cherished its Confederate history and the great leaders who made such sacrifices on behalf of the Confederate cause, and whereas Marshall County is rich in its history of the war between the states and contributed several companies and many individuals to the Confederate Army, and whereas the Kentucky Division of the Sons of the Confederate Veterans is dedicated to honoring all those who served in the Confederate States Army and to education the general public concerning Confederate history. And whereas the month of April bears special significance since it marks both the beginning and the end of the war between the states, now therefore we, the Marshall County Fiscal Court, hereby proclaim April 2015 as Confederate History and Heritage Month in Marshall County, and encourage all residents to increase their knowledge of the role played by the Confederate States of America in general and the Confederate soldier in particular in our country's history.
Thank you. proclamation. I would entertain a motion to approve.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
I would entertain a motion to approve the proclamation.
So moved, Judge.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Gemma, do you have a copy of the Marshall County Extension District budget, our board, the SPGE budget summary?
We don't do it.
I don't.
I am so sorry. Do I need to get copies of this to give to them before I ask them to vote on this? Okay. Basically, it's their budget, and everything has come up here. Your actual one due September 1 is all zeroed out, so I'm assuming that's a good thing.
Their budget runs from,
They're zeroed out, so they're
it runs from when to when?
July 15th, and that doesn't give me a year.
It should be their fiscal year 16.
Their fiscal year 16.
Budget.
Which
Let him
doesn't take
see that,
effect
'cause it's
until
easier for me to look at.
July
July.
1,
That's
15.
July 1, 15 to June 30, 16.
I'll I'll give you a minute to look at that. That's, and then I'm just going to entertain a motion for us to accept their budget. Fiscal year, oh, here it is, 2015/2016.
I think because of, I believe it's House Bill 1, where it changed the special SPEG, the special government entities, their filing requirements, they are no longer required to file with the fiscal court anymore. But the majority of them do, just as a good gesture and for transparency purposes, to let you all know what they've got going on.
But anyway, somehow we failed to get copies of that. I don't know if we have copies of this next thing either. Okay, yeah, he made copies on that.
Usually they present their plan of work. They a lot of times present their plan of work.
Yeah. Well, this is a conservation, yeah. But anyway, I would, if you're ready, or if you would like me to move that on to the next meeting to give you a chance to study it, that's fine. I think it's a pretty simple budget item, and I would entertain a motion to accept that.
So moved to accept their budget.
Second.
All right, there's a motion to, made and seconded. All those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Say that they're not required by law to do this, is that correct?
No, they are required to report it to the state. They are
Oh,
not
to the
required
state, but not to us?
Yes, and
So
that's
it's
the
kind of a
state
moot
form.
point Whether we
Yeah.
accept it or not.
Yeah, yeah,
We just
yeah.
recognize the fact enough, that's,
Yes.
Okay,
I think that's good of them to
to keep us up
certainly keep
aware.
us updated, that's,
Now, the next thing is the Marshall County Conservation District Annual Plan of Work. Justin supposedly gave you all a copy of this in your receptacles. I would entertain a motion to accept this for the fiscal year 2015-2016.
Make that motion, Judge.
All right, motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, the next thing on our agenda is to schedule an annual bid opening for May 5th, 2015.
So moved, Judge.
All right, motion made to schedule the bid. Is there a second?
been opening for,
All right, motion been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Well, just for general, I guess, information, we'll be putting together bids for, I'd have to get the list. It'll be for oil products, it'll be for paving, it's just a whole list of things that we bid each year. And at this time, and I don't have the list in my head, but anyway, it's,
If you come to the office after the meeting, I'll give you a copy of what we've had in the past.
Yeah, that was kind of vanilla to me on the
culverts,
agenda. Thought
culverts,
maybe the
there's
sheriff knew what
there's
it
all kinds of things.
It's one of the things
I
that they.
understand now, but
Yeah, that they use, and you can just go ahead and get the best price for the whole.
right, yeah, I understand.
All right, so we need to, we've had motion made and seconded and discussion. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. At this time, we have something to add here. Russell, I think you were requesting to,
Get permission to advertise for a surplus sale. We get much scrap metal and stuff built up.
so he's wanting to get a surplus sale going. We're talking like culverts and metals and,
There's scrap metal, and there's a couple old snow plows that we don't use no more, and a grapple. An old grapple used to go on the grade off that we had to replace.
will you do that from the road department? Will Wendy take care of that? Okay. So,
Make a motion to
All
allow
right,
them
motion.
to do a surplus sale.
motion's been made. Is there a second? Is there any discussion?
Yes, legal question, do we have to, in this body, give a reason why this is surplus? Isn't that the law?
Well, Russell can tell you why you don't need it anymore.
It's just old.
Well, I understand that, but I thought legally before you have a surplus sale, I know you have to, on the city level, you have to proclaim the reason that it's, not, why it's not being used, because taxpayers' dollars bought that piece of equipment. Is that? Well, I understand that, but your taxpayers' dollars bought that junk, and the legality, I'm just asking, I don't know if you have to do it on the county level, I know you have to on the.
Have we ever had to
on
do
the
that?
City level.
Have we ever had to give a reason why we're doing surplus?
Yeah, I mean, well, we don't need it anymore. I mean, that's a good.
Just not anything that is useful for us anymore. Not to us, it's not to the taxpayers either, I don't
It's
guess.
just declared surplus.
Declared surplus property,
Surplus.
then you'll add that to your motion, that should cover it.
I think you're missing the point, but I find that. I understand that. I understand what you're saying, but I just thought that the procedure was that legally, since you're disposing of taxpayer products that were paid for by taxpayers' dollars,
have
that you
to-
had to officially.
Move to have him surplus unusable, worn-out equipment.
That sounds good.
Well, I just asked if
That's
all.
what he said.
Yeah, I don't think we're like selling anything that we could use.
No, I'm not saying that
Uh-huh.
either. I just didn't know. I'm just trying to make sure I understand the procedure on the county level. I just assumed that it was the same as the law, the same as the city level.
All right.
We can do that same day as the bid openings if you want.
Can we do that same, okay, got enough time and everything for that? Okay. All right. Did I hear a motion to do it? I'm sorry, I got a little lost.
Yeah, I made a motion.
There was a motion, there was a second, we had discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That took care of it. The next thing I have is the Marshall County Animal Shelter Monthly Report for March 2015. Animals in the pen as of 2/31/15, Animals brought in by animal wardens, 27. Animals brought in by citizens, 35. Total animals taken in, 62. That breaks down into 39 dogs, 8 cats, 15 puppies, no kittens. Animals adopted, 61. Animals in foster care, 0. Animals reclaimed, 8. Animals euthanized, 6. Animals in the pen as of 3/31/2015, 31. Adoption fees, $1,020.
Still doing very well.
Okay, so thank goodness we have no executive session today. We can go on, unless, approve payment of the bills.
Move to approve the bills, Judge.
Motion been made, motion been seconded to approve the payment of the bills. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Is there anything else to be brought up?
Could we go ahead and set the county road aid hearing for that same day, the May 5th one? May 5th meeting,
May,
as we're going to have the bid openings.
That is a regular scheduled meeting, May 5th.
yeah. What is that, the road aid?
We have to have a road aid hearing to get the public's opinion on how they feel, if they have any requests for how the road aid monies should be
Okay,
spent.
and that will be done in the regular fiscal court? Or is
Usually,
that
it's
afterwards?
a hearing, it's afterwards
Hearing
usually.
is afterwards, so that would be set immediately following the May 5th regular meeting of the fiscal court?
Usually they're set at 1 o'clock.
One, okay.
I'd set it immediately following or 1 o'clock, whatever. Because usually we're finished in time to do it most of the time. If not, we'll do it after lunch.
But it's open to the public and it's to receive
Well,
their
that's true.
comments, so
Okay,
we'll
we
have
just
to
have
give
to
it
set
a
it
time.
at, okay. If we have to open it like that, then I guess we'll have to do it at 1.
All right, then we need to ask for a motion to have the road aid hearing set for 1 o'clock on May the 5th.
Might want to explain that to Johnny and I.
road-
I assume.
Road aid hearing, but
I
can you
assume
explain that?
that's
to me?
telling them where you're going to spend their money.
No, well, it's a legal requirement that we open the floor to hear the public's opinions on where they would like that money to be spent. It's
You mean the
something that,
individual roads they would like it to be spent on, or whatever
They
comment?
can do
Okay.
that. I don't know if we've
Okay.
ever had anybody to
We-
make
I
a
start saying
complaint.
historically,
we've
have we had
ever-
anyone show up for this?
Not as far as I know.
You
Okay,
could set it at 11 if you wanted to. That way you wouldn't have to come back at 1. You just recess into that and then
oh,
come back.
okay,
That'd be fine, set it at 11.
all right.
I'd make that motion, Judge. to be set
Okay,
at
make a
11
motion,
o'clock
set
on
it
May
at
5th.
11, and is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion been made and second. Any more discussion? And I'm understanding then, if we're still in the process of the fiscal court meeting, I will just recess and we will go into the hearing, then recess out and come back in. Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we've approved the payment of the bills, so we're ready to adjourn and go into the budget workshop. Okay, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
And a second? Motion made and a second. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.